everybody. Welcome to Ballers and Briefs for today's Hall of Fame game kickoff show. It seems like Brad's having a few technical difficulties right now, but I guess I would just go ahead and get it kicked off. Tonight, we have football. Football is back, the best sport in the world. That's what we're here to talk about. That's what we came to see. And just so happened to be that Coleman Pride here is Texas. Houston Texans are in the show tonight against the Chicago Bears. So just first wanted to kick off and talk about a little bit about some fantasy numbers going into the season, and then we'll talk a little bit about some DFS numbers looking forward to going forward into the season, and just a few ins and outs on what we might see tonight in the game. So first, let's just get right into it. Let's just talk about what we're looking for tonight. Everybody knows this is going to be a sloppy game. We're going to see like guys out there. Who is that? What are these guys doing? What is this guy on the field for? We're definitely looking for third stringers to try to make the roster. With being that this is a Hall of Fame game, these guys do get an extra game preseason, unlike the other teams that only get 3. And then we know that usually there's no starters in the first couple, or they just touch the field for maybe a series or 2, maybe a snap or so, and then they're out of here. So all signs point tonight that there will be no starters on the field. No CJ Stroud, no rookie Caleb Williams, no DJ Moore, the man that just got paid, no Keenan Allen, Joe Mixon, you name it, Nico, Tank, those guys, that Stephon Diggs, who we're all getting ready to see in a Texans uniform for the first time. So that is what we are looking at for tonight. With that being said, let's just hop straight into some fantasy numbers. If you guys follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and all our social media platforms, I did put together a good tweet about where some numbers are, some players that are in the top 100 ADP rankings for NFL in this actual game, in this Hall of Fame game for tonight. And I'm going to put those numbers up here on the screen. So just bear with me just a moment. Here in just a second. Let's see. So, I mean, obviously the number one name that jumps off the page here is in order of the way that they're being drafted right now is Nico Collins at number 30. You're getting him in basically in the 3rd round. He's a number 1. And then the second one, he's a wide receiver 13. So then the second one is Stephon Diggs at 36. He's a wide receiver 18. And then following on down the map, you get Joe Mixon at 39 at RB 15. DJ Moore at 40, wide receiver 19. CJ Stroud at 47. That's a QB 5. So quarterbacks are coming off the board a little bit later, unless it's a name like Josh Allen. So those guys are seeing less, I guess, maybe more of a drop this season than what we'd expect them to, just for the simple fact of the matter is quarterbacks, if they don't have the super running ability like a Jalen Hurts, a Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, people aren't seeing the amount of scoring that they would expect from those guys. So other guys on there, Tank Dell at 57. He's a wide receiver 27. DeAndre Swift, a new addition there in Chicago, 64. He's an RB 20. The elder statesman who's moved finally from the Los Angeles Chargers to the Bears, Keenan Allen at 69. He's a wide receiver 30. And then the new man on campus there in Chicago, no pun intended, Rome Odunze at 96. He's a wide receiver 42. So these guys are all being drafted right now in the top 100. And it all boils down to what the stats are looking like right now for those guys. And that being said is because I think in wide receiver rooms, both of these wide receiver rooms are stacked, right? So you have three, I would say, pure number ones in Houston and two pure number ones in Chicago. So you got Nico and Stephon Diggs, and then you have Keenan Allen and DJ Moore also there in Chicago. So hey Brad, so what I was just talking about was I was just kind of going over the little list that I put out the other day about the top drafted ADP guys on tonight's game. I did kind of say that we're really not going to see any of these guys tonight. We know for a fact that these dudes are probably not going to touch the field. It's going to be the Tyson Badgett of the world, the Roshan Johnsons, uh, and then Davis Mills, dudes like that. It's nights like tonight where guys like John Mechie can try to get into that fourth spot, maybe Xavier Hutchinson. So dudes like that. So that's what
Yeah, well, you definitely would love to have seen, of course, the number one pick in Williams, and then also Rome Dunze. I think I had heard on the radio as well. I think this may be the first time that a first round drafted quarterback did not see like sometime in his first sort of potential game action ever. So that's kind of interesting there. But I guess also from a fantasy standpoint, though, yeah, you won't be able to get to see those sort of marquee names. But watch out for Rashawn Johnson, because as you know, in the running back game, all it takes you just one play away. In case with most players, but running backs tend to go down, and it's kind of next man up mentality, and then also sort of various scripture kind of crafted more to a certain skill set. So watch out for Roshan Johnson. Watch out even for Tyler Badgett. Maybe he might be a good handcuff just in the event of
I mean,
injury.
there's some talking about running backs here in this game in particular for the Bears side. Obviously, there Roshan Johnson sitting there at I guess a stacked third spot there in Chicago behind DeAndre Swift, um, Khalil Herbert, and then Roshan Johnson. But then behind that, you have guys like Travis Homer, who we've seen in Seattle
Seattle,
before.
yeah,
He's always been a like perennial like third string guy or fourth string guy, and always comes in when somebody gets hurt. And then
always.
another name that's popped up that I've seen is Demetric Felton. You remember him from Cleveland? You remember him like he was like a fourth string guy there in Cleveland, like a pass catching esque type back um
The name
behind
sounds familiar.
Chubb. It was like Chubb and then
Ford,
uh yeah, Ford, but when what's his name? Oh my god, I went blank. The one that was the Chiefs for a long time and then he went over there, he played for Toledo. Oh my god.
Kareem Hunt.
Kareem Hunt. So it was like Felton was in there like third string behind him, and it was like then Ford took over. It was just a weird guy. He was one of those dudes that liked to catch the ball out of the backfield more. He's not one of those power backs that you're used to seeing there kind of in Cleveland. So he might be one of those dudes that just tonight, especially like you're gonna see guys like that that's just trying to make the field, trying to make the team. Um, so that's really what tonight's all about. I mean, I don't know if anybody can see in the background here, but um, the some of the guys that are being inducted into the Hall of Fame names I'm proud to say that we finally got him. We're finally there, Mom. Like we finally made it. Houston Texans, Andre Johnson. Um, then
Of
you got
course.
the Bears, who obviously I think if you just play good for the Bears in your career, you're probably shoot in for the Hall of Fame. I mean, you got Devin Hester, I guess, and you got Julius Peppers and Steve Mongo, McMichael. Shout out to the Four Horsemen, WCW there. Um,
I would definitely say Julius Peppers, at least for me, was more of a Carolina Panther for
Panther.
me. And he
That,
was in that Super Bowl team. But just even all those years, just remember him coming out of North Carolina, playing both basketball and football. But you could just tell that he was definitely a versatile athlete, just a terror off the edge. And so I guess out of all of this group, sort of the person that I got to watch the most on Sundays were definitely Julius Peppers, and then also Andre Johnson beating up on the Jaguars cornerbacks for a decade. So definitely shout out to both of those guys, and the effort that they put in is definitely rewarded with the Hall of Fame, and it's definitely earned and definitely deserved.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It's great to see that those guys. I mean, especially this is a great. I don't know how much you know like about Steve McMichael. I mean, I remember it. Not old enough to remember the '85 Bears team that he was on, but I remember him as a wrestler. And so
Nah,
but his whole gimmick was he was Steve Mongo McMichael, right? So like he was like he come out in like a jacket that looked like an old football jacket and it had the number 90 on it, and they'd be like, "Oh my god, it's Steve Mongo McMichael," and he'd come out with his Super Bowl ring and he'd have his fingers taped like he was like about to put his fingers in the dirt, and it's good to see him. He's basically like on his deathbed now. He's got I think
oh wow.
ALS. Yeah, he's got
Oh yeah,
ALS, I think
yeah,
is what it is, and
yeah.
he's in real bad shape. But I'm glad that he's getting his due as part of
Me
one of
too.
those guys that was a terror for that '85 Bears team. If you go back and watch that football, that type of football is not what we see anymore. So um but yeah, that's really kind of what uh what it's about, you know. So so
Agreed. Agreed.
I got to thinking with these two teams being the topic of debate here, and I was saying that there is um Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Joe Mixon, DJ Moore, CJ Stroud, Tank Dell, DeAndre Swift, Keenan Allen, and your guy Aroma Dunze all being drafted in the top 100 in fantasy
Yep.
right now. Um, what if you had to think about which one of those guys, if you had to have one of those guys on your team right now, like what guy would you be looking for out of that group
Oh wow.
there?
That's a fantastic question. I guess based off of history, if I wanted to sort of look at the sort of past and sort of who's been kind of your most consistent players, of course, you would probably want to look at a Keenan Allen or a Stephon Diggs. But the only problem in this situation is that they're both playing for new teams. And so you don't necessarily know what their value will be within a new system. So it gets a little sketchy. So I guess I'm going to even take the riskier play, or I guess take the same play that I've been taking from before and go with Roma Dunze and pick him going out strong. Just because I wouldn't necessarily say I would pick him in the first round, but definitely just pick him up on the team because I just believe that Keenan Allen and DJ Moore on the outside are going to open up a lot of opportunities him in the middle of the field, and sometimes even for a quarterback, it's easier to find that slot receiver or the tight end right across the middle of the field than to sometimes hit those deep out routes because you know sometimes if you don't time those perfectly on that comeback. That cornerback's going to step over and go ahead and pick that off and take it to the house. So I'm going to try to change it up a little bit and go at Roma Jones.
I mean, I like the Rome play. It's just that like I've seen I've seen quite a bit of, let's just say, like this in the off season. I've seen a quite a bit of him dropping the ball. And nah, I'm not saying that's not like his what's the word? His like jitters or what have you, but I've seen quite a few drops in camp. Do you think that that would sway you away from a guy like him?
No, not necessarily. I guess I just recall the Jamar Chase preseason where he proceeded to drop passes, and there are plenty of clips of him dropping the ball and then went on and have a really good rookie season. I think sometimes there is a little bit of adjustment to the NFL football in comparison to the college side, and I just think that that's going to take a little bit to get adjusted to. But I still, again, just really believe in the way he can be schemed up, especially in a team that's looking to potentially go ahead and be, pass first with the new offensive scheme. I just think that it fits well here. But I guess also another person is Nico Collins. I will have to go back and look at the amount of games, but I believe he had at least 4 or 5 games of at least 17 to 18 plus fantasy points last year, if I'm not mistaken. And just kind of running that back with CJ Stroud, the chemistry is there. So if you are a little scared about a Stephon Diggs, that again the chemistry is there with a Nico Collins. I think Tank Dell's coming off of an injury, so maybe you might want to look later rounds for him as potential for a chance to uh, kind of catch him later in, and he may end up working out. But I just think now it's going to become there's so many mouths to feed. How could you feed them all in each game? It's just going to be a lot more difficult with the Stephon Diggs because he's going to need at least 7 to 10 targets.
I mean, I'm not. I don't think I'm. Maybe that's just me being a homer here. Like I don't. I'm not as skeptical of Stephon Diggs. I feel like Stephon Diggs is about to be the first time in his career since his first few years there in Minnesota that it's going to be a he's going to get like he's not going to be the pure number one is what I'm trying to say, right? Like he's not like I don't think the
Yeah,
quarterback's going to try to force him the ball like Josh Allen. We expected Josh Allen to do over the last few years, but it's always been great for Josh Allen when Stephon Diggs was on the field, but not so much that same, I guess, two we two-way street, if that makes any sense. I guess that's the proper
yeah.
way to say it. So it's a little bit more difficult to kind of think about than it would be with without him being on a team, I guess, that he's got to be the
No,
number
I
one on.
no, I agree. Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this all kind of breaks itself down and ends up panning itself out as far as for how that offensive production is going to be broken down. And across the board. But even I guess also watch out for sort of the running backs as well on both of these teams. I know we've just kind of spent a lot of time talking about the quarterbacks, but someone's got to run the ball, and you're gonna get those 1 yard touchdowns, like I always say. But that 6 points could be the difference between winning your league and winning your league game and not. And so definitely let's not forget about our running backs here that's going to be toting the ball this year as well.
Yeah. And I was thinking about this is like I feel like we're kind of glossing over him, and you guys see that Joe Mixon here. I think that Joe Mixon is probably one of the biggest sleepers amongst both of these teams because people are saying, "Oh, well, his production has kind of tanked over the last few years." But I'm like, what are you people talking about? I mean, it
I will
literally
have,
is
yeah,
like he had 257 attempts, 1,034 yards, and 9 TDs. He had 52 receptions, 376 yards with three TDs. He was RB6 in PPR format in 2023.
and that
That's
was with the
tanking production.
quarterbacks. That's with quarterbacks that were, below average, starting quarterback caliber quarterbacks in the league.
I mean, that's insane. And kind of to pivot to the other side, like DeAndre Swift, 229 attempts, 1,049 yards, and 5 touchdowns. And here's the fun part: 39 receptions, 214 yards for 6 touchdowns. And that was at the Eagles, who he would
Yes.
get his touchdowns gulfed by Jalen Hurts in the end zone. So Jalen Hurts was still dumping him off the ball, like so. I feel like
Yeah.
he's going
Oh
to get
yeah.
that same kind of stuff with Caleb Williams um there as a rookie, and he's going to need somebody that's there and sure, okay, I need help. I need some help here. Like, so, and that's going to be DeAndre Swift, I think. So,
Yeah, schematically, especially with both of these teams, probably going to be in sort of three receiver sets as a base set. That's going to force a nickelback to come onto the field. So you're getting favorable conditions to run the football in comparison to where they would have sort of stacked box scenarios when you're sort of the key guy. I think there were some times where Mixon, at least last year, was again sort of that key guy, and when he was when you get those stacked boxes, of course, it's harder to be more productive. But even for Swift, again, when the sort of the game plan allowed it and they were more spread out, you could see the production and the yards per carry start to go up. His carries start to be more effective. And I just see that kind of carrying over here again. I always say kind of shy away a little bit from kind of new changes until you see it. But in some cases, if you start to see a mix and start to fall, for instance, in your upcoming draft, if you see a Swift start to fall, I think those are really good backs that you can pick up. That's going to end up getting you really that solid production at over 15 plus points of fantasy value.
yeah, for sure. I mean, it like that's essentially 9 players between both of these teams that are drafted in the top 100. I mean, that's 1/10 of almost all the players that are being drafted, and then you have 3 others that are just drafted right outside that are still in the top 135, right? So you got Caleb Williams at 109. He's quarterback 13. So that's at least someone's at least drafting him as a quarterback too. Or in the case of a league like you and I are in this year, where there's 14 people in it, someone's gonna have to draft him. Like, I mean, not saying they're gonna have to, but statistics average would say that someone's gonna have to draft him.
Yes,
So that's insane. And then someone I think a lot of people are forgetting about, just because they thought he didn't have the greatest year over the last couple years, is Dalton Schultz. He's been drafted at 121 at tight end 14. So again, in a 14-man league, he's one of those guys that's probably going to get picked up. And if you lucked out and got CJ Stroud as your quarterback, you might could have that potential to stack, especially in a deep league like this, like a deeper, higher
I
end.
think this is the biggest, the largest league we've been in yet, right? The
Yeah, yeah,
14 league. I don't
yeah.
think we ever played a 14 league, so I guess it'd be
No,
even kind of new draft situation for us as we kind of run through that. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think that you have to be willing to kind of dig a little bit deeper, making sure you're finding value, just like you're saying, Cody, is picking up that type of a tight end will then allow you to have sort of at least a guy that can at least get you some points per week. It may not be as explosive as your top end tight ends, but again, in a deeper league, you're really you're really strapping for points. And so just having even a remotely, top 30 tight end is very beneficial.
I mean, it's just a statistic that kind of shied away from. He's had 4 straight seasons of 55 plus receptions and over 550 yards receiving. So, and then he had is in his last four touchdown amounts in the last 4 seasons is 4, 8, 5, and 5. So
Yeah.
he's had 150 and a half fantasy PPR points in last year in just 15 games. So to give you a comparison, someone to compare that to, most people are like, "Oh, Tank Dell had so many points last year." Well, Tank Dell had 165 points, so he had 165 PPR points. I mean, obviously, he didn't play as many
Yeah.
games, but he's still. It's the numbers are there. I mean, you're looking at someone that's a value that's outside that top 100 where people are golfing people left and right. So,
What are your thoughts on the Houston defense this year?
well,
I
I'm
mean,
glad
they're
you
really
asked that.
returning basically everyone as far as for fantasy value because again, in a 14-person league, having a great defense might be the difference.
Yeah, so they are. I think the defense is definitely. top 6-ish, and we're bringing in Daniil Hunter.
Yeah.
You're gonna see some rookie play from Kamari Lassiter. He was from Georgia, so I gotta get a Georgia plug in. But D'Amico, I think, is gonna have the team ready to go. I mean, he always does. It always seems to be um like he's gonna have the team stacked, right? So, and I feel like he's kind of building it in his image. Like he's trying to grab players where he feels like, okay, well, when I was a Texan here and I played for Wade Phillips and whoever else was defensive coordinator at the time, escapes me, but um he had guys that there was always bunches like D'Amico. You had tandems, right? So there was always two guys on each in each pot that you knew. So you had D'Amico Ryans and Brian Cushing, and then
Yep.
you had defensive backs. You had Kareem Jackson and Jonathan Joseph, and then on the defensive line at times you had Vince Wilfork and JJ Watt. So like there's always a group. So now he's like pairing guys like you got Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson. They brought back Jerry Hughes. Um, so that's good depth,
Yep.
and then the corners, they're trying to bring in pair Sting with Derek Stingley with another like Okuda or another name that you might see, and then like the safeties with you got Jalen Petrie and Ward, Jimmy Ward. So it's he feels like he's trying to like create duos
Yep.
all around his defense to where
Yep.
okay, these are guys I can point to, and these are guys that I'm looking forward to having run this season. So that's where I think that we see the most value. Now, this other team, the Bears has a pretty good defense. I mean, they're um don't sleep on Jalen Johnson, and they got brought over at the trade deadline last year, Montez Sweat, and then they paid him.
They
So,
did.
and the defense kind of took off under Matt Eberflus, who we knew was a really good defensive coordinator at his time in Indianapolis, and that's why he got the job in Chicago. Because
Yep.
what is Chicago famous for? Is defense, right? So, I mean, I don't think Eddie Jackson's there anymore, so that's not a name that you see. But this is Jalen Johnson and Montez Sweat's defense, I
I
think,
would be
going forward.
interested to seeing them moving forward. Sometimes with a rookie quarterback, he might make a bad decision and put you in a bad spot. Give up sort of an easy touchdown, which kind of affects the points. But sort of a sneaky play, from what I'm seeing at least so far. But just like you said, I think towards last year they did have a couple games where they were fairly stout defensively. So definitely watch out for them. And whenever you have an edge player like Montez Sweat, the sacks will give you points. So just kind of having that edge rusher can kind of help you from a fantasy perspective as well. So definitely watch out for both teams, defense as well. Keep them on your radar when you're making your draft picks this year.
Yeah, I mean, you get well. They also have Tremaine Edmonds, who they paid last year as their
That's
middle.
right.
So,
I
oh,
thought they had
and
him up
then
there.
TJ Edwards, who was with Philadelphia also a couple years ago, and then Kevin Byard from that was a
Tennessee.
Titan and then was with Philly, and now he's there. So like they're they look pretty good. I mean, I think that their defense um is looking up. And then uh I'm gonna get a little Olympics plug here. Simone Biles' husband, Jonathan Owens plays for them too. So he was in he was in Paris today, so watching his wife win gold and not at the Hall of Fame game. So where the money and the bacon is coming from.
Gotta support wifey. Gotta
Yes,
support the
yes,
wife.
definitely. So, but yeah, no, I mean it's um game's about to kick off. Um
Yes,
so it's
football is
we
back,
football's
fellas.
back.
Football is back. All is well in the world now that football is back.
Yes, definitely. And we will be going keep this up. we may have maybe a couple more shows before the full season kicks off. That's kind of up here or there, maybe, but definitely pay attention to all the social media
Yes.
platforms.
Watch
This was
out for
supposed
the
to be live on
notifications.
Twitter, but apparently Twitter is still being ganky and did not put my stream up live, so I'm a little upset about that. But um, yeah, pay
The
attention to
show
all our
must go
social
on.
media. Yeah, right.
The
So
show must go on.
yes, but we will be going back to the obviously the getting you ready for Thursday night football, and then of course our big shows on Saturday. But we do have a couple other things or a few other things that we are going to be doing this season that are specific to us that we have to do. We have to take our own advice and get different so that we can keep growing. Keep on the lookout for merchandise. We'll be doing some giveaways, not just merchandise giveaways. We have some other type giveaways we're going to do. So, but just keep that on your sleeve and look for us. And we will see y'all in the next one.
Peace.
Peace.